Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today as we present last year's Vision Award idea that was voted on by the conference, Developers Conference last year. Today we're going to be talking about taking information from our online forms and moving them into Razor's Edge.
And my name is Ashley Moose. I'm a consultant here at Blackbaud, and I have the lovely pleasure of actually getting to work with Hallie on implementing this Vision Award.
So I'm Hallie Guiseppe. I'm the Director of Advancement Operations at Alvernia University. So I'd like to start today with a customary tradition that we have at Alvernia by sharing with you what we call a mission moment. A mission moment for us is an opportunity for contemplation, which is an essential value of the Franciscan tradition. So with the intention behind that is to slow us down and help us focus and center ourselves in a time where we face unprecedented pressures and just the speed of life generally. So today I thought I'd share with you a quote from St. Francis of Assisi. Start by doing what's necessary, then do what's possible, and suddenly you're doing the impossible. So today we will be covering the business problem that Alvernia's team identified. We're going to share a brief account of our automation journey, the solution that we came up with to solve our business problem, and the outcome. Then Ashley is going to walk us through the actual flow, and we'll end with a couple of ideas on how to improve this current solution, as well as adapt this app to other solutions. We're going to move quickly through the presentation to allow plenty of time for questions at the end. The Alvernia team was super excited when we implemented our class note collection form. So our process basically kicked off whenever we would receive notification that a form was submitted. A member of the Alvernia alumni team would export the responses from Microsoft Forms. They would manually make the updates and document it with an action on the alumni record. Some of the issues that we faced were manpower. If our team was busy with another event or something, then data entry tasks usually become lower priority, which impacts, that lag time impacts things like communication updates, mailings, and potentially missed publication deadlines in the case of our Alvernia magazine. It also, some of the issues are data entry varies based on who's making the update. Common mistakes might include entering a note, but not entering the action, not marking the action complete. And then also with the inconsistent process, it impacts our reports. So at the end of the day or month, our engagement reports rely on those actions and engagements and how they get put into the system. So also, most of you know, anything that you have to enter manually, that's prone to errors as well. So we're going to take a quick detour and talk about my automation journey. So the first time that I was introduced to Blackbaud, Sky API, and Power Automate was at BBCon in 2020 when it went virtual. That's where I met Austin Brown, a big fan favorite, and we became fast friends. I lived vicariously through her participation in the Accelerator 101 while I waited for access to a pro license for Power Automate. It was because of Austin that I attended my first developers conference in 2021, which led me to the Power Automate community and user group meetings. Big shout out to all of my friends on the community. They are always such a great resource. By March of 2022, just a little over a year ago, is when I finally received my upgraded license, and I had my idea board over here filled with flows that I wanted to build. I jumped right in to the accelerator videos on the Get Started area of the community. And as you might expect, learning was difficult because time was not always available for me to get there. As fate would have it, I bumped into Bill Walsh at the 2022 CASE conference, where he invited me to join a discussion panel at the 2022 Developers Conference. During the conference, Heather McLean encouraged me to submit one of those ideas hanging over on my board. And to my surprise, the attendees of the conference voted to bring that idea to life. I share this journey with you because I want to encourage everyone here, no matter where you are in your skill level right now, to pitch your ideas, because you might win and you wouldn't believe how far you can come with the support of Blackbaud developers like Ashley. All right, so now we're going to jump into the solution. The first things first was the paperwork. We had to create a detailed step-by-step account of our current manual process, and every single detail mattered. When I even went so far as to include ideas and questions in the documentation, so that as Ashley was reading through that and the Blackbaud developers team would understand where my head was. I even went in and I included all of the columns in our form. And we even, I even made notes as to what type of column it was and whether that question branched off to, depending on the answer to the question. So here's an example. Say an alumni is on our form and we ask the question, do you want to update your home address? If they said no, I wanted the flow to skip over it. There was no need to go any further. But if they said yes, I needed to compare it to the existing address on the record. But I had a question, does it matter if we spell out avenue and avenue's abbreviated when it comes in? So that's kind of an example of how I went through and documented our process and asked questions and just made notes to myself and to the development team. So then, because the best laid plans of mice and men ought go awry, we ran into obstacles. So the first thing that we had to resolve was that our form, our Microsoft form, we weren't able to accept, we weren't able to have the alumni upload a file. And if they chose to submit a class note, if they were getting married and they wanted to submit their engagement photo, they weren't able to do that with Microsoft Forms. So we talked about different ways to go about this. We talked about, we could build an email into the flow that invited them to upload the file later. But thankfully, because Heather McLean was on there, she rightly pointed out that that could diminish the end user experience. And so we pivoted and we actually switched from using Microsoft Forms to using JotForms. Another issue that we encountered was that this was Alvernia's first step into automation, and our team felt that they wanted a degree of control over the information that was being imported into the database. So we needed to build an approval step into the process. Finally, with the help of communication with our alumni team, we talked about that we needed a simple, easy interface for what often ends up being work study students to interact with the information and approve constituent matches and the updates that will be made ultimately. Then we handed everything off to Ashley, and she began the first draft of the solution. We actually implemented this in the beginning of May. And some of the outcomes that we are expecting, because we haven't had it all done yet that long, but just based on some historical information, some of the great things, the outcomes are that there's an archive of the original record information because we use Microsoft Lists in the flow. there's a PDF of the original form that the constituent completed that gets added directly to that action. We were able to save over, based on last year's numbers, which there's about 100 more entries this year, but based on last year's numbers, we would save 60 hours of time, which is a fantastic return on investment for us. That's based on 168 forms filled out last fiscal year and an average of 20 minutes of manual entry to complete those. And then we also just improved the overall process by standardizing, reducing the time needed to complete the data audits on the back end of things, and then of course standardizing information for our reporting. And now we're gonna show you a little video to walk you through, and hopefully it will go ahead and start like it did in demo.
So real quick, while this is getting started, I just wanted, if anyone can let me know if I'm still sounding garbled, because I did see a couple comments that my sound quality wasn't coming through well.
A little bit.
Better, or still garbled.
Do you want me to rewind? I'll rewind this a little bit if you...
Don't know that there's much else I can do. Let me try one thing. Is this sounding any better?
A little bit.
A little.
Well, Ashley, while you're working on that, I'll go ahead and start the video and can kind of walk everybody through.
All right, how about now?
Do you want to talk a little bit?
Is this sounding better?
Say again.
Is this sounding better?
You're still pretty robotic.
Okay. Oh, Haley, do you feel comfortable walking through this, and I can help add any additional detail in the comments? I mean, I've tried a couple different things here, and it's not working.
I will walk us through. I'll do my best.
Thank you. Sorry.
All right. Okay, so here, this is the user experience now that our alumni will go through when they're filling out the form. You'll note we have some required fields in here. Those are fields that we're using in that matching functionality in the flow. So here we're just, giving them an opportunity, prompting information, but they can easily click over things if they don't need to do that. Here you'll see this alum is, Mickey is gonna go ahead and update his employment. He has, in case you guys didn't hear, he's joined the Alvernia University team as head mouse. And here is where he has the opportunity to let everybody know in our magazine that he is joining the team. So we drop that information, he's typing that in. And again, another good thing about the JotForms are they are much nicer appearance. And here's the fun part. This is the part that really was the clincher for us on the decision, was that being able to upload that file right there. Now behind the scenes, we have that flow that ran and just popped a notification into our Teams channel here. Gives us a link to the app that was created. And then we click right into Mickey. And now we're reviewing. We see up at the top that we have what Mickey submitted and the possible match. And if there was a second possible match, it would be to the right of that first one. Here we're selecting, yep, we feel good, that's our Mickey. And now we've chosen to take out any information that's exactly the same. It wouldn't hurt if you left it in, but we choose not to at the time in the flow by taking it out. Note that I'm able to undo that delete. Big piece of conversation is making sure that if we accidentally deleted something, we could go ahead and recover that. Now we just approved that. As we refresh the app, you notice Mickey disappears from the list that needs to be matched. And now we're on Mickey's record, where you can see we don't have any actions, attachments, notes, online preferences. Once I refresh this, you can see that that information was all added. We have that class note that is, to our process specifications. We've added that photo of its own, that link to the photo there that goes on the OneDrive. And now we have our class note. Like I said, the entire form as they filled it out before we removed any information is all right there. So if we had any questions, and you can see that those online preferences are there, and fireworks, because it's wonderful. All right. Okay, so this is where Ashley was going to take over. So you're going to give me a little bit of leeway here. The JotForm is the first step, or is one component that we used. We talked a little bit about that. We also use one SharePoint list where everything goes to the actual SharePoint list whenever we approve it. And then when the first flow, the add JotForm responses, takes the information from the JotForm and drops it into the SharePoint list. It takes the information that it found that it believes matches that JotForm entry and drops that into the SharePoint list. And then the next flow in the series actually is where we are taking the information after we've approved it in the app. And no, it's not. That's the second one, is adding the results from the match to the SharePoint list. And the third one is the processing the JotForm approved matches to the Razor's Edge database. And we created one app that helps us do that match, which you guys saw. So here is the overall process. So it's that JotForm is submitted. The form is then added to the OneDrive folder. That is actually really something that we hadn't intended, but that's how JotForm designed their connector. So that's what we ended up working with. And it tends to work really well. You can add additional security around a OneDrive folder, which ended up being a bonus in the end. The flow then adds the form data to the SharePoint list. It looks for the potential matches and then adds that to the SharePoint list. It sends the notification in Teams. Our users in our team then go in and review the submissions, mark what the matches are, and then approves the information that's going to be going into the system. Then the flow takes that information and adds that to the SharePoint list. It updates NXT, and then the original form entry is attached as an attachment, and the SharePoint list is marked as processed. And that's what finishes that process there. Okay, so these are the connections that we used. And all of these links are going to be provided to you. They're in the community post, and I believe they will also be in the session files. So the Bing mapping is used to help us validate those addresses. The JotForm is the underlying engine that triggers the whole process once that's submitted. We have our Razor's Edge constituents connector where we pull different information about the constituent, and that's where we also get to help match things up. Our interactions add the actions for that the form was submitted. We also used the send an HTTP request connector for things like adding non-constituents, like when a constituent might say, oh, I'm getting married and here's my spouse's name, and we wanted to add that as a non-constituent if they weren't a constituent. We use Microsoft Teams for the notifications to our team that something needs to happen. The OneDrive that offers us a place to house all the JotForms and the photos that are submitted. Planner is used to create a task for any constituent. When there is not a match that is found, it will create a task that allows us to manually enter that information. And of course, SharePoint is used to move things around. Here is a picture of the actual solution that bundles it all together. And again, all of this is included in a beautiful detailed document that Ashley put together for everyone. Here is the kind of overview of how you might take this solution and make it your own for your organization. So you're going to download all that information from the community, and you're going to import that solution into your Power Automate. And then you're going to change the fields up. So you're going to add or remove any fields that apply to your process at your organization. You're going to update the logic. So I think we had to go through and update. We use business phone rather than business number or something like that, or just business. I can't remember exactly right now, but just your tables, that kind of language, you're going to want to clean that up. And then you're going to be able to update the colors as well. So when Ashley first put this together, it was very Microsoft blue. And so she gave me some pointers on how I could go in and just update those colors. I just did the very basic stuff just to kind of get that put out there. All right. So I hope I did it justice, Ashley. So what's next? We are considering if it happens enough that we have a match that actually isn't a match, we're considering possibly adding a not a match button to the top of that app to just, again, take that information to then send it in for manual entry and look up in the case. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes people think they're alumni and we don't have them in our system. So some of the ways that we are thinking about using this same solution, but adapted to a different way, is for, like email consents. So as many of you probably know, unsubscribe is the only option using NXT emails. So our organization tries to combat that with a block at the bottom and a button that drives people to a communication preference form. And so when people fill that out, currently that gets added to a planner task and somebody manually updates that. I could see this form solution being adapted to manually update those consents as well, or automate the update of those consents. We're planning a re-engagement campaign for early January of 24. I could see this being something that would be very helpful in that. And just recently, our graduate adult education team reached out to me and said, hey, we have a survey in JotForms and we'd like to have this added to our partners' constituent records. Can you make that work? And guess what? Yes, now we can make that work because I can adapt this. And even though all they want is the form itself, I can just take this whole flow, get rid of all the other stuff, and just import that form. So super easy. Excited about that. Sorry, scrolled in the wrong screen here. So all that to say, I want to bring us back. I want to close the presentation by bringing us back to the mission moment that we shared, because I just want to let you know that I couldn't have imagined a year ago that Alvernia Advancement Team would have come so far in such a short time. And I just think it's important to remember that when you're ready to implement automation, just taking one step at a time, and you'll be able to be reimagining what's possible at your organization. So again, you can download these. These are all links to different resources. All are also posted at this, the template, and all of these resources are also posted at that Blackbaud community. And now we are ready for questions, if you have any.
Not sure if I sound any better, but Haley, you definitely did it justice. So thank you.
You do sound a little better.
Well, good.
All right. So anybody have questions that they are? Oh, yes, Catherine, thank you. Thank you. Yes, if you want to apply for the Innovation Award, Catherine dropped that link in there. You guys give it a shot.
Yeah, you've got 21 and a half hours. Hallie, last year, did you make a video from a conference you were at? You just dashed it off and submitted in one? Am I remembering that right?
So it was this conference. Yeah, I had just, I said, oh, that's a great idea. Maybe I'll do it next year. And then Heather McLean, I don't know, she cornered me somewhere in spatial chat and said, no, just pull one of those ideas off your board, pull the best one off and just do it quick. And so without thinking about it, I just did it. I was terrified. And lo and behold, here we are.
That's outstanding. So the link there to the community blog post tells you the 4 awards that are open for submission of the applications, and they're good until tomorrow. So there's Power Platform, there is BI, there's Off the Grid, and there's this Vision Award that is something that is conceived that will benefit not only the organization of the person who submits it, but also the entire community. So that's a great.
And I did want to add a quick note too, that all of this is shared on the community. I know Haley mentioned that, but it's really shared from start to finish. So you can get a template of this exact same form. It just links out to an existing JotForm URL that I think points to my account. So you can download that and really start from a complete, have everything there and not have to start from scratch, and then go through and start to modify it and make it your own and kind of learn how you might want to make things a little bit different. But hopefully it'll make it easier than some of the other ways we could have shared it.
Thank you.